Good afternoon. We're privileged to join you today, and we would like to tell a bit about Darby County's story. It is a 127-year-old story, which I won't go into year on year. In fact, we'd like to focus on the last 14 years, as you heard Keith say in the video, which is after our stadium opened. We had a historic ground, the baseball ground, that we enjoyed for many, many years. In 1997, we moved. When we played at the baseball ground, we had 50 disabled supporters at a typical match. Yesterday, we played Millwall, and we had 700 on a crowd of 24,000, which is, if you've done the math, is just north of 3% were disabled supporters and their carers, which is a phenomenal figure. And I want to come back also to how that's grown even since we've moved into the new facility. And what I also say is that we haven't grown the numbers because Darby has grown or because it's become more passionate about football. We're privileged. We're in a football city. It's always had strong support. So the crowds have remained solid, but the number of disabled supporters has continued to grow steadily. And that's something that we're encouraged by and pushes us to keep going. I'm aware that you've spoken yesterday about new stadia, and that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed in my career, has had a chance to be part of building two new baseball facilities. I used to work in baseball in the United States. You may recognize this is not a Darby accent. It's more of a North Darby accent. One in Lansing, Michigan, one in Sacramento, California. I learned there about the Americans with Disabilities Act. I learned about barrier-free seating, and it was very instructional to go through those two stadium builds in 1996 and 2000. And more recently was able to be part of the business planning for the new NBA arena in Brooklyn, which Barclays has put their name on, the new Barclays Center. It opens up in a year. And that was just before coming to Darby. But the story that I'd like to tell today is not about building new stadia, but what can be done with a stadium after it's been built. And that's the thing that has us as encouraged as we are and motivated to keep going at Darby County. So there's three things that I'd like to focus on. The first is listening, learning, and acting on what you're hearing and what you're learning. The second is marketing, reaching out and communicating throughout the community. And the third is to have a superior disability liaison officer. And he's already up here with me, but I'll brag about Keith a little bit. Keith has been with us since 1996, and Keith is the singular reason for why we've seen the growth and the quality and the continuity of service. And he's still energized, and he's still passionate, and he's still down here learning and innovating. We've just had a great 2 hours in the car. It's been a good chance for us to take stock of what's working, that we need to make sure that we keep doing at Darby County, as well as some things that we need to be doing, which include 3 or 4 more buggies. And we've just talked a little bit about how we get from 700. Our record is 865 disabled supporters at a match. And so I asked Keith today, how do we get to 1,000? And I was pleased to know that he's already had a conversation with our ticket manager, and he has a plan in place when we can get to that number. So back to the first one, listening, learning, and acting. I think it really gets down to basics. Some of the most important things that we do are the work that Keith and the dedicated disability stewards that we have do at the match every day, which is constantly going around the ground, speaking to our supporters, and talking about how things are going. And if you were at the match yesterday, you would see Keith all around the stadium, inside and out, from 2 hours, 3 hours before until the last supporter has left. And that's been very important. You met Angie in the video, and you would have seen Angie at the ground yesterday, and she's obviously, as you can tell, one of our more outspoken and passionate supporters. But it's the many hundreds of supporters that we have conversations with, that Keith leads, that have become a part of the rigor that is our match day operation. You also met, although his name wasn't up, Tim Rees, and Tim was the gentleman with the beard who's the chairman of the Disabled Supporters Club. And that is a critical relationship for us, and we have regular meetings, frequent communication, problem solving with Tim and the disabled supporters groups, and Keith leads that as well. Since 1997, when we opened, we've had some new construction opportunities. We had kind of a U shape with a single stand with 2 open corners. When we opened, crowds were good, so we filled in the 2 corners, and those presented us with obvious opportunities to add additional facilities for the disabled, additional external lifts, and many other things. But some of the other things, as you've seen, have been just clever ideas, like adding the seating on the concourse for pre-match to get a cup of tea or something else, and those things have not been very expensive. The relationship with the Supporters Club has also helped us to bridge some of those funding gaps. So while the club puts money in every year to maintain and to upgrade, sometimes we don't have as much as we'd like. And the Supporters Club often meets us halfway, and sometimes we're also then meeting them halfway and providing fundraising initiatives that they marshal that allow us to bring additional funds that provide new kit, and that's terrific. I think that the other thing is that we have a culture now throughout the club, and Keith has great relationships. We're very integrated, so as you would expect, but maybe not always happens at every club. He's very closely aligned with our ticket manager, very closely aligned with our stadium manager and engineer, very closely aligned with our marketing manager, our communications manager, and all of these things allow us to have everyone be tuned into what Keith is thinking about day in and day out, and that's allowed us to react and to grow very well. The second topic is marketing and reaching out. When we opened the building in 1997, we actually only went from 50 fans at the baseball ground to 125. That was our average in 1997 and 1998. So, and we had more seats available. So what we've actually been able to do since moving into the great new stadium is to get from 125 to 700. And that's been no accident. And the marketing of that has, as you might expect, been very targeted. We haven't been running radio campaigns and ads in the newspaper and billboards. It's been more targeted, more clever than that. And some of the most important things are just getting out and telling people in the right places. One of the best things that Keith does is he meets regularly with community organizations. He'll do free tours to have them come on a non-match day to experience the stadium, have a look around, see what the facilities are like. That then often and that's a free service that Keith provides. That then can turn into a single visit on a match day, which can then turn to a season ticket purchase as they perhaps become more passionate. And it's also, we're not always getting passionate right now Darby County supporters and convincing them this is the place to come. Sometimes it's a casual fan or someone who's not necessarily a football fan, but it's a great day out. It's a way to be part of the community gathering place that is a Saturday afternoon at Pride Park Stadium, and it's also a nice break for their carers. So there's a whole new category of value that we're able to provide when someone is able to come perhaps with a different carer and their everyday carer is able to get a Saturday afternoon off, which is a wonderful thing. So this sort of getting out and telling people our story and making it a part of our everyday process has been an important part of allowing us to grow. And as I said before, we're now talking about, and we'll spend the car ride back up north, talking about how do we get 3 new buggies, but how do we also get to 1,000? And that will be an exciting conversation to have. I guess what I'd like to say in closing, and I know we'd like to take your questions, is when you have a new stadium, it presents you an opportunity to get a lot of things right, but you can never get everything right, and it never goes exactly the way you planned. And it's having the discipline to keep going back year on year to find what you can do better or what you can do different. Or in our case now, it's actually, we hold 33,000 fans. I'd like to sell out every game, and we're working across every part of our business to grow the crowds. And that's true for growing our disabled supporters. We had 3% of the crowd yesterday. I'd love to find a way to get that to 4% or 5%. In order to do that, we're going to have to continue to stay a step ahead on our facilities. And that's a commitment that we have made internally, and we'll continue to see if we can deliver against it. And I think that's it for now. And we'd love to take your questions. Thanks very much for having us.